right, what's up, everybody? Sorry about the... Oh, man, that mic is hot. Woo! I'm assuming something messed with my microphone settings because it was maxing out. So, sorry about the pushback of the time here. I think it might work out. Maybe we'll get more people because everybody's at home instead of watching at work. So, we are back now. This is our first Ask Tim stream. These will now be Wednesdays and Fridays at later times. We were polling people and asking them, and not only does it work out better for us to have them more towards the evening instead of the middle of the day, but hopefully more people can join in. And plus, it's after 5 o'clock now, so no one can judge me for having a beer. It's been a long day. This will not be a repeat of the roast stream, which I hope you all enjoyed. Oh dear God, I'm blaming that on you, Nemo. Do you see this? He doesn't play with these when I'm just working. It's only when I'm streaming. It drives me nuts. I don't understand. Oh my God, that's your fault, Nemo. So, anyways, we do have some updates. Okay, we're confiscating this. You can have it back after the stream. Good boy. Go lay down. Go lay down. Can you go lay down? Yeah. Anyways, sorry. So first things, we are going to do the June giveaway. So let me pull the Excel sheet. I have not made a new form, and I'm honestly having a hard time at this point figuring out what printers we want to give away. Would people be opposed to us doing other stuff like, you know, gift cards to our shop in lieu of a printer? You know, I thought it'd be easier to do a printer, and it's kind of like, I don't want to be giving away an Ender 3 every month. Because that's basically what it comes down to, is an Ender 3 or, you know, what other random stuff I have. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the Wheel of Names. And I also am talking with Coex about them providing... Sorry, I can't multitask apparently. Hang on, I'm copying all the names. Scrolling down, we got like 500 entries. Anyways, I'm talking with Coex to have them send us some extra rolls specifically for giveaways. So not only would we be doing like a you know, a larger giveaway every month, but also do a couple of smaller ones where you guys can win some filament as well. So, and I mean, we carry filament now too, so it's a little more, I feel like our gift cards are a little more appealing, because, you know, if you don't have a million printers that you're constantly upgrading, you know, eventually you buy the stuff you need from us and then you don't need it anymore. So let's get right into it, and let's see who won a printer. I was thinking about doing a Voxelab Aquila, because that was a halfway decent printer despite the whole issue with the board and the chips and the firmware. I'll reach out to the person who wins and we'll figure out what they want to do. But I have all the names here. We're going to go ahead and pull up the Wheel of Names here. So I've entered in all 546 entries. And we're going to see who won June's printer here. So, all right, let's do it. Ooh, ooh. Let's see. John Santiago. That name sounds familiar. John Santiago, you have won a 3D printer. I'll reach out to you. I don't know if you're watching. But I will reach out to you and we'll talk over some options, because like I said, I don't have one picked out for this month. I don't have a printer from a sponsor, but you know, we're going to purchase it ourselves and ship it out to you. So all right, that's out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to take a screenshot of this real quick and save that so I know who won. Anyways, let's get into it. So a couple of updates on our end. I will be posting details about this, but we have completely removed PayPal from our website. We've been constantly having issues with them enabling buyers to, I'm just going to call it, it's basically defrauding us. As you guys know, there's a lot of shipment delays happening with the shipping carriers, combinations of, and this is just, I may be right, maybe wrong, but it seems like a perfect storm of high demand because everybody's ordering online still, staff shortages, and just general mismanagement with the post office. But we've had a lot of international buyers disputing charges on orders that are only a couple weeks old because they're taking a while to get to their destination. Now, this is in spite of us having and have had multiple notices on our website specifically stating that carriers are having delays, and we have a detailed page on our website. If you click COVID-19 status at the top, it will take you to a page, and it literally says, if you're international, it's going to take a while. It's going to take 30 to 60 days sometimes. There obviously are outliers, but I'd rather set the expectation that if you are international, mainly outside of North America, Canada seems to be doing okay, but those are even still getting delayed, that it's going to take a while to get there. It's just how things are, the reality of the situation, especially when you're choosing the least expensive shipping type, which is usually first class mail international. The problem is PayPal doesn't seem to understand that these carriers are having these delays. People will open up disputes because they want their stuff now, even though they didn't opt for the faster shipping method, despite us having warnings on the checkout page, the cart page. And I feel like we've been very open that, hey, we are seeing these delays. If you're international, it's not unheard of for your package to take 30 or even up to 60 days, which I get it. It sucks. But if you're choosing the cheapest shipping option, it's something that is to be expected right now. That's the reality of the times we're living in right now if you're ordering international. And that's not to say you will always have this super long delay. It's just right now it's not unheard of, and it's not uncommon if orders are going outside of the U.S. We ship here from Hobart, Indiana in the U.S., and it takes a while. The USPS is slow, especially if you're doing the, except for, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Especially if you're going international. So domestic stuff seems to be back to normal, but trying not to get off on a tangent here. But basically, orders are taking long. We've communicated this with everybody. We have it on our website. We have notices on the cart, the checkout page, and then on our COVID-19 status page that, hey, this is what it is. Problem is, we have people abusing the PayPal dispute system, filing claims saying they never got the item because it's still in transit, and most of the time they're opening them up at about 2 to 3 weeks in transit, which is definitely not enough time. And then PayPal sides with them. And then they'll also open a claim up with Route Insurance, and they'll get paid out from Route Insurance. Someone is, oh, this is probably a scam. This is Bank of America. We're just going to power my phone off for the stream. But anyways, so in multiple cases, we've had international buyers who we've communicated with, tell them, hey, like, this is just the reality of the situation. You're choosing the cheapest shipping option. It's going to take a while to get there. As much as we'd like to speed stuff up, we can't speed it up. We have no control over the post office. So these people end up getting refunds because PayPal forces us to give them a refund when they close the dispute in their favor. And then they also get a payout from insurance. And then we're stuck footing the bill of the product, the shipping cost, and the refund. And PayPal doesn't seem to care. So we have removed PayPal from our site. We have standard credit card processing on our site, but I'm done giving PayPal our money because they just don't care about companies. They just want to give people the money. It's no hair off their back because not only do they give the money back to the person, so the person now has gotten a refund from Route Insurance, and they've gotten a refund from PayPal, and they have the item on the way to them still. So, and if I don't have a way to recall packages, so I can't go to USPS and say, hey, I need that package back. We've tried doing intercepts before, but it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So I can't even get the stuff back. So eventually what happens is these people now have money from us, from Route Insurance, and their products. And we're all on the hook for it. And when PayPal gives them the refund, they still charge us the fees that they took. So I'm tired of dealing with PayPal. They're a terrible company to deal with. So we're going to leave them off our site. We still accept standard credit cards. We have partnered up with a company called Stacks. They were formerly known as Fat Merchant. So they rebranded as Stacks. And not only are their processing fees a whole % or more lower, they actually have a dedicated team where if I have an issue like this with a chargeback that's fraudulent, I can call them and actually talk to a person, and they will actually go to bat for us. Like, you know, right now we have a case open with PayPal, an order that was delivered. The customer contacted us for technical support, and then they reported the charge as fraudulent, and PayPal pulled the money from us, and we're still waiting in limbo. It's been open for about 12 days. So, yeah, PayPal is just a terrible company. We're going to see how it goes. I hope we can sustain not having them on the site. I know a lot of people like to pay with PayPal, but, you know, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, so to speak. I guess that would be kind of literally. But the bottom line is they charge us a ton of money. Their support is terrible, and they're literally stealing money from us. So, yeah, it sucks. So, but I'll be posting an update on our site. If you guys are wondering where PayPal went, I am looking into cryptocurrency methods, which is a little bit hairy, trying to figure all that out. Like, do we keep it in, you know, Bitcoin or whatever we accept, or do we just leave it in there and or do we not leave it in there and cash it out? So if you guys have any suggestions for a WooCommerce cryptocurrency platform, I am 100% open to adding cryptocurrency to our ways to pay. So, anyways, so yeah, PayPal. But other updates. So we have finally got tracking information. I just had to do. I had to submit some paperwork for the importation, or like, I guess, Homeland Security import clearance thing for our FlexPlate order. But they are in South Bend, Indiana, which is about an hour from us. They're just waiting for FedEx to give them the paperwork that I provided to them today. So we should have FlexPlates by Monday or Tuesday at the latest. So if they come in, but today is Wednesday, so if they come in tomorrow, we should be able to get through and process them and restock them. And basically we will have all the sizes restocked, and we also have plates for the Ender 6 as well. So if you were looking for a 290 by 290 plate, those will be added to the lineup along with the magnets. So anyways, so there's our little segue, as we usually have. I'm trying to find the window that has the live stream so I can pop the chat out. I don't have the new giveaway form for this week up, or for this month up, but I will make one after I'm done with the stream here, and then I will post it in our Discord server in the live stream. Oh no, there we go. I had my own video open. I'll post it in the live stream's Discord and leave it open for a little while. So, anyways, let's see here. Let's see what questions we have, because that's what we're here for. I don't know. I feel like maybe half of you are here to see what rant I have for the day, and the other half are actually here to ask questions. So, let's see here. So, I think our first question is the first one I can see. Is there more on OBS? There might be. Yes, there are. So I'm going to have to read from here. So, because the chat window from YouTube has less questions in it than the Streamlabs OBS. And I think our first question is going to be Mr. TJ Dorman. And he's asking if he can use an EasyFlex on a Delta printer. I'm going to stop you right there. Probably not, because most Delta printers have a round bed, and we don't carry any plates that are a round size. We just carry square and rectangular sizes. Never really got into the Delta market, nor do I want to, just because the amount of troubleshooting with them is significantly higher than Cartesian machines or Core XY machines, just because of the mechanical structure of them. I've had one Delta, and that was enough for me. I do not have any desire to own another Delta printer. Let's just say that. So, let's see. Ram Design asked, he said, I'm looking forward to the Chiron info. Time to rewire, question mark. Best gauge for heated bed, hot end, and drivers. What's the best kind of wire to... Wait, best kind of wire to battle the gantry movement? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. I am probably going to switch out my heated bed wiring on that machine. I believe it's 14 gauge. It looks like it's 14 gauge. So, because it's really thin and they have a 1,000-watt power supply just for that bed on there, so it pulls a lot of current. And I feel like 14 gauge, while technically just barely within spec of the current it pulls, it's definitely bottlenecking the bed, meaning you're losing a lot of power because it's heating the wires up because they're so small. So I'm probably going to change my bed wiring out on that from the stock like 14 gauge to a 12 gauge wire, and also change the wiring out that goes from the power supply to the bed MOSFET. Now in the Chiron, at least on mine, they have a little jumper wire bridging 2 terminals to one, and then on one terminal they have another wire where the bridge jumper thing is going to the MOSFET. And I'm assuming that's so they can double up in power. What I'm going to do is crimp 2 sets of cables because the screw terminals are big enough on that MOSFET to fit 2 12-gauge wires into it. So I'm going to do that to mine. I will be doing a stream on that. I don't know when because I'm still working on getting the Unified 2 update done. I was hoping to work on it more today, but you know, people opening these, you know, bullshit disputes because they're impatient has wasted many hours of my time today. So, but I digress. I don't think you need to change anything out for the hot end or the drivers. I'm probably going to leave the stock 4988 drivers in there. I did think about putting 2209s in. We do carry 2209s, and I should be able to just swap those out. But the noise doesn't really bother me, to be honest. I'm quite partial to the stepper noise. Don't get me wrong, I love Trinamics. They're quiet, but it doesn't bother me, especially with machines in the print farm. I feel like it'd be a waste for me to put, you know, Trinamic drivers on a machine where it's already in a room where, you know, I've got a loud network switch going in there. I've got a mini split AC unit running in there. I've got a bunch of other printers running in there. You know, the last thing I care about is some stepper motor noise when there's a ton of machines already making that same noise. So, but in a home environment, totally get it. But though the stock board on the Chiron does have socketed drivers, so you could swap them out. I'm willing to bet that the motor direction will probably need to be inverted. Typically, when you switch from 4988s to a 2208 or 2209, you have to change your stepper direction. And there's 1 of 2 ways to do that. If you want to retain compatibility with your stock firmware, you can physically switch the plug, as in unplug it from the board, rotate it 180, and plug it on. Sometimes you can pull the little shroud off the pins and flip it around so that way it locks in still. Or you can just change it in firmware. So I've done either or. It really depends on the machine and how much I'm deviating from stock, because the thing that's annoying is if you do change the drivers out and you have to reverse it, you then have to remember that you reversed, you have to reverse those axes when you update the firmware. So let's see, I'm going to move to the next one here. Tom Taylor says, he said the fan speed on my display and the fan are going between 5 to 100% every 5 seconds on my Creality 427 board. The fan shouldn't be doing that on its own unless you've added an option into your firmware that will throttle the fan if it detects that like the layer fan's overcooling the hot end. We don't have that. If you're using our firmware, we don't have that option enabled in firmware. But the more simpler answer would be it's probably your slicer sending those commands to the board, and the board's just doing what the slicer told it. Some slicers will have settings, different fan settings for bridging or overhangs where it'll boost it or lower it. Your board's not going to just do that by itself unless you explicitly enabled a feature, and the name of the feature is escaping me, but there is a feature in Marlin where if it detects that the layer fan is overcooling the hot end, which could lead to a false thermal runaway trigger, it will throttle the layer fan. But we don't employ that setting in our firmware. So M. Poffenbarger is asking about easy plugs and Home Assistant. So there's really no quick way to be like, this is how you do it. So Home Assistant is great. I use Home Assistant here in our shop. I use Home Assistant here in our house. I have many easy plugs hooked up here controlling various things like the TH3D logo. That's on an easy plug. This LED cube and the little sus guy right here, this is on an easy plug. Basically, it works with a couple different things, and Home Assistant has a couple different options as well for integration. The newer versions of Home Assistant have a native Tasmota integration, and if you want to use the native Tasmota integration, you can change. There's option 19. So I'll show you. Let me pull up one of my plugs on the network here. I gotta find it here. But if you're using the native Home Assistant integration with Tasmota, you want set option 19 set to 0. And if you're going to use MQTT with Auto Discovery, you want set option 19 set to 1. And if you are using our easy plug with the stock firmware, set option 19 is set to 1. Just for easier integration. But let me see if I have a bunch of them. So I'm in my unified control panel. And let's pull one up here. So I got one connected, 8P10. I got quite a few plugs in here. Okay, TH3D logo. You see right here? Right there. Turn it on and off. Okay. So in Home Assistant, if you're going to do the integration, let me see here. Share main monitor. Actually, let me make sure it doesn't show any of my. It does not show any of my settings here. All right. So if you have the web UI for the Easy Plug up, you'll be greeted with something like this. This is an Easy Plug Plus. So it's got my power monitoring on there. But let's say you're using MQTT. MQTT is a very nice protocol for smart home stuff. You would go into configuration, you go to configure MQTT, and you put your MQTT IP address in for the host that's hosting the MQTT server, which would normally be your Home Assistant IP address. The default port is 1883. I created a separate user just for my Tasmota devices and password. And you would enter in that username and password that you set right here. And then you can leave this default and hit save. And then that will, out of the box, once you enter in MQTT information, it will then go and talk to your MQTT server, and Discovery is enabled by default. So if I go into my Home Assistant here and I go to my configuration and integrations, I can see here MQTT. I have 16 devices listed, and you can see TH3D logo. So, and that's this device here. So this is where it'll show up. Now, in order for you to have MQTT enabled, you need to have the Mosquito Broker plugin installed. So you would go into the Supervisor add-on store, and then you want to install the Mosquito Broker. MQTT is short for Mosquito. And then you would go, I'm not going to show this tab because it's got my credentials in it, but in this tab here, in the configuration tab, you can specify usernames and passwords for devices. The newest version of the Mosquito Broker also can use your Home Assistant login and password as a authentication method to talk to the MQTT broker. So the nice thing about this is once you have this add-on installed, you can then go to the integrations and hit add integration, and then it will usually auto-discover it, but you can then add a new integration, MQTT. See, it already says it's already configured, but it'll usually pop up. You see how this found my Denon receiver that's downstairs? It'll pop up like this, and you can configure it. So once the add-on is enabled in Home Assistant, and you have devices talking to the MQTT broker, it will pop up in here, and once you add it, things will just start popping up. So I don't know if I have a plug laying around so I can show you. I have one here. I don't know if this is set up already or not. We're going to find out. Yeah, actually, I'll save the setup for another thing. But basically, the pieces of the puzzle, you need to have Home Assistant installed. You need to have the Mosquito Broker installed. And then once that's set up on the Home Assistant side, all you need to do then for adding plugs is add the IP address and then the username and password we're going to use to talk to the Mosquito Broker. And if you're using our Easy Plugs, it shows up automatically as the, what's the word I'm looking for? As a device. Now, if for some reason you are using a different Tasmota device and you're not getting the auto discovery working, you can go into console and type right here, you can type set option 19.1, okay? And this will enable the auto discovery for MQTT. So and you can see there, it just reinitialized it and it sent the state topics here to the MQTT server. Now, the other way to do the integration is directly through the native Tasmota integration. You can see here, I moved one of my devices over here. So one of my lights here, which is a Tasmota light. This is the light right over here off screen. This is talking directly from the Home Assistant installation to this. So there's no MQTT broker. And this is a relatively new integration. So you can see here now, all these devices here, I could move over to this native integration, but it's really just preference. I'm probably going to start using the native integration as I add more devices, and eventually I'll move all these over from an MQTT integration to the Tasmota integration. So, but MQTT is great. I use this for a lot of different devices. Blue Iris talks to my MQTT server. I've got, not ESP Home, that's direct. A bunch of my Tasmota devices talk to that as well. It's a very nice open protocol for IoT devices and other things. I could talk for hours about MQTT and there's a lot to it, but basically MQTT, think of it as like a database that stores states and you can send commands to, and devices will read and write from those command topics. So like, just for example, like if I have a light switch, it'll have a state topic. So like /switch/state, and that state could be on or off. And there could also be, switch/control, and you would publish an on or off command to that control, and the device would be subscribed to that topic. And when it sees a command come in, let's say it sees an on command, it would then turn the switch on, and then it would feed the state, the actual state of that switch, back to the state topic. So, yeah, we just talked about home automation for a little bit there. So, but basically, the things you need to have are a Home Assistant installation, an MQTT add-on installed, and just configure the add-on, and then you can tell the plug to talk to the add-on. I have not tested the direct Tasmota integration with the EasyPlug stock firmware, which is like Tasmota 8.4, so it's a little bit older build, but I believe it will work. I have not tested it myself. I don't see why it would not work. So yeah. Anyways, hopefully I didn't confuse you kind of all over the place. Like, this is all off the cuff, so I'm trying to like organize what I'm saying as I'm talking to you guys. Let's see here. Where were we at? I'm talking about Home Assistant. Tom Taylor, do any of the motherboards have independent fan ports? The 427 has 2 ports, but they're connected together and controlled by the cooling fan speed. Yes, well, we're not going to have any more of these Easy boards. We are almost done with the Easy Board V2, but these boards, the Easy Board V1s, the new V2, they all will have 2 controllable fan outputs. The MKS S-Gen L, which is a third-party board and a universal board that we carry, that has 2 fan control outputs. It actually might have 3. I got to look up the specs, but I know it has at least 2. And if you're doing a single extrusion printer, you technically would then have 3, because you can use the extra hot end output as a fan control, because it's just a MOSFET. So, but yeah, the Creality boards, the 427, like even their V114s, and as far as I know, all the Creality boards, there might be some outliers, but as far as I know, all the Creality boards have 1 controllable fan output. So I am going to need to top off my maw. I've already had 2 scoops today, and I filled up my water bottle, and I'm going to have more, because if I keep drinking my beer, I'm going to turn into a sleepy Tim. So, all right, what is the next question here? We're talking about the giveaways here. What do we got going on? People are talking about gift cards. Always good, especially now since you stock coax. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Dimitri K, you should do a modded 3D printer like Ender 3 with the Easy ABL. We're working on something better. Give us a couple months. Oh, chat jumped. Chat dumped. Chat jumped. I can't talk. All right, we're back to where. When will the Easy Flex be back in stock? I don't know if you. That was probably before I said. Hopefully Monday or Tuesday if FedEx doesn't botch the delivery. But they're in Indiana right now. I have literally almost. I'm not even joking. Like we're like 100 pounds short of an actual ton. Literally a ton of flex plates and magnets coming in. So they're here. They're in the U.S. Vica's got an Ender 5 Plus. Watching your videos on it. Have an easy board and mag plate build on the wait list. Any other tips for the build? You probably are going to be fine because if it's a new one, I believe they're shipping with Meanwhile power supplies, and that was the main issue with those printers when they came out is the power supplies. They were using, you know, the Changlang brand, and they were blowing up. Mine smelled like burning electronics the moment I started heating the bed up. But yeah, not a terrible printer. Basically, the only thing I think that one needs out of the box is auto bed leveling. That's about it. I do have our Easy board in my Ender 5 Plus. Like I said, we're still at least a month out on the Easy board V2. The testing has been going great. I haven't had any issues with the software. The hardware is all running great. I just got to do some more extended analysis and take thermal images. So we have that. We're going to be going hard on driving home the quality of the board and the parts selection. I'm going to have tons of thermal images and stuff on all the product pages so you guys can actually see what it looks like to have the board under load in certain conditions. So I'm pretty excited about it. Let's see here. Henga says many eBay orders from China are taking 45 to 60 days, even some from Amazon. So it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, that's how shipping is these days. I've had stuff that has gotten delayed a month. I've had stuff that comes early. I've had stuff that comes on time. It's all a crapshoot. It seems like US to US shipping is working. It's not huge delays, but we have seen packages get bounced around where like it's going to like the next state over and it took a week and a half. You know, it is what it is. You know, you just got to be patient. So, and, you know, jumping back on this topic, what astounds me is that people are, I don't know if they're ignorant or dumb or whatever, but like the people that yell and scream at us because a package is taking along, like at this point in time, how is it not well known? It's been going on for over a year now that the whole COVID-19 thing is absolutely screwing up shipping carriers. Like, how is this a shocker that it's a surprise? Like, I don't get it. Like, anyways, just fire up a personal stream on my personal channel that's been neglected for a couple of months. But let's see. Any board news on the Easy board restock? Like I said, at least a month. I'm not rushing stuff out. If you want boards that are rushed out, check out Big Tree Tech. They're really good at rushing boards out. But we like to sell stuff that works, and I don't like using our customers as test dummies where you guys are paying for a product that's supposed to be done and it's not. So Victor Vervier is asking, what's a good Hotend? Whatever prints and meets your temperature requirements. I've said this before. I used to upgrade the shit out of all my printers. We're talking Hotend changes, board changes, and as we've gotten more upgrades and stuff for things to modify the existing stuff, for Hotends, I've honestly been using stock Hotends for the most part, and only when there's like a catastrophic failure with the stock Hotend do I actually replace it. If I do, I throw our tough Hotend on there because it's affordable and it works great. And plus, like, you buy a Creality Hotend, you're paying almost the same for a new Creality Hotend as you would for our tough Hotend, and I like that the tough Hotend gives you a lot more flexibility for nozzles because it uses the standard V6 nozzle type. But in general, I've been using, when I have printers like the Crealities that have the stock Hotends, I'll change the tubing out for our tough tubing because that gives it a little more consistency and accuracy when it's guiding the filament, and it also allows me to print past 240C without having to worry about the PTFE breaking down, because the main complaint with the stock Hotend setups on printers is they use the cheap PTFE tubing, that white stuff, that not only has terrible tolerances on the inside, so it's very loose, but once you start printing at 240C or higher, it will start degrading and little chunks will start melting off or breaking off of the end of the tube that's in the melt zone, and you'll get clogs and stuff. So that's the main thing. If you're printing PLA, you're probably going to be fine for a while, but it does break down. The stuff like the tough tube that we carry, it holds up a lot better over time, especially when exposed to higher temperatures. So if you start getting into PTFE, or not PTFE, you start getting into PETG, you start getting into ABS, where your print temps are 240, 245, sometimes even up to 250, that stock tubing is not going to last very long at those higher temperatures. So let's see here. Let's see. Ben is asking about lead screws. He said, is there anything to gain from restraining the lead screw with a bearing / and printed part at the top? If the printer did not come with it, probably not. You're probably going to introduce more issues. The only time I will add restraint to a lead screw is if I'm doing something like a dual Z kit, like we sell a mechanical dual Z kit that has the blocks at the top. It physically needs to be restrained for the belt and everything to work. Or if I'm doing a linked system where I have a printer with 2 lead screws and 2 motors and I want to keep them in sync. In general, you don't want to restrain the top of it. And this is I feel like it's kind of a widely debated topic. Because some people say yes, restrain them. Other people say no. I don't think it's needed. It's relatively inexpensive to find out if it's going to help or hurt. The main concern with adding the restraint is if your lead screw is not straight, that is now, instead of it being able to wobble around at the top, it's now going to push it into the print and possibly add Z banding. So, you know, it's a trade-off. But you know, for like an example with our dual Z kit, I know the lead screws we're shipping out to customers are straight, and the lead screw that we ship out with those kits goes on the motor-driven side, and the stock one then goes onto the non-motor-driven side, and it hangs down at the bottom, so it's not restrained at the bottom. So setups like that, it makes sense, but if you're restraining both of them and your lead screws aren't straight, you're going to have some problems. So, James Stark says he's got an Ender 3 with a BL Touch Marlin running Marlin 2. I probe the bed before each print. Can't get a first lighter. Z offset zeros out. I don't know what you mean by zeros out. Like you're setting it to 0? I've added G29, M500, M502, M501, M420S1. What am I missing? That does not, you don't need any of that. So with an ABL system, once you're set up, and this goes with the BL Touch or the Easy ABL, the only G code you should have added to your stock G code at the very minimum. Now we do for our Easy ABL, and our Easy ABL starting code works for BL Touches. Hint, hint. It's on our help center. You really just need a G29 after the G28. Now there's some other stuff you can do, like in our starting code, we also have a nice purge line built in. We have a second Z home just to make sure we're absolutely certain about where our Z0 is. So we have a G28 and then G28Z, and then we have a G29. You should not have M500, M502, M501 in your starting code. M420S1 forces bed leveling on, but when you run a G29, it's going to enable bed leveling after you run the G29. And you also, so it's not needed. So the M420S1 is not needed after a G29, because after G29 runs, it's going to turn bed leveling on. I was on track here and I lost my train of thought. So we're talking about the starting code. Oh, if you have after the G29 a G28, that will usually turn bed leveling off. So you want to make sure your G29 is always after the G28. So if you have your starting code set up correctly, your probe is reading correctly, meaning you can do a G28, it homes with the probe on Z, you do a G29, it takes the grid. All that you should have then left to get things working is to make sure your starting code is in order. So you can store your mesh in what's called the EEPROM. This is more of an advanced setup. So you can run a G29 and then do an M500, and that'll save it to EEPROM. And then instead of a G29, you could have M420S1, which will then recall the stored mesh from the EEPROM. The only problem with that is your bed could change from that last probing. So I always run a G29 on every single print. I don't use stored meshes just because I want a fresh mesh every time I start a print. So let's see here. I'm trying to see if I can go back to my other screen because the Streamlabs chat replay is tiny. Okay, we're good here. Kevin has a snapped heat break and a snapped nozzle out of his V6 hot end. How can I get a snap? I'm assuming if you're saying you snapped, how did you do that? First off, but if it's snapped in the block, I'm assuming it's snapped in the block. Sometimes you can use those screw extractor kits to get those out. To be completely honest with you, it usually takes a long time to get that stuff out, especially if you don't have the screw extraction kits. The best way to do it would be try to drill it out a little bigger and see if you can get something in there to grab onto it. But, you know, the sad part is if you don't have screw extraction kits, you're probably just better off buying a new hot end setup because it's going to take a long time and there's no guarantee that even if you get it out, you didn't mess up the threads. I don't know if you over tightened it or if maybe you tried removing it when it was cold. If you guys are working on a hot end that's already been used, not a new one that's never had filament through it, you should always be working on, taking the heat break and the nozzle out of the block while it's hot, because once the plastic's in there, it tends to bind things up when it's cold, and then you end up just breaking things. Glenn Rudolph's asking, does Ender 3 V2 come with all metal hot end, or does this need to be upgraded for the higher temps? No, it does not come with all metal hot end, and you do not need to upgrade it for the higher temps. You can just do, like I was talking about the tough tube earlier, that's like a $10 part. It's a new piece, it's a new length of tubing that you replace the stock tubing with. You can go up to 275C with a tough tube. You literally take the old tube out, cut the new tube to the same length, and put the new tube in. That's the gist of it, and then you can print higher temperatures. So if you're not going to exceed 275C, I think the tough tube is a way to go because it's cheap and it's a quick upgrade. And you also get a benefit of the tighter tolerance. So your stock tubing that comes with the printers can be an internal diameter of anywhere from 2 millimeters all the way up to 2.2, and your filament's right around 1.75, so there's a lot of slop in there. Our tubing diameter comes in around 1.9, and it's plus or minus 0.05 millimeters. So that means at the smallest, it's 1.85, and at the largest, it's 1.95. So it's a lot tighter of a diameter around the filament. And why that's important is when you're doing an extrude or a retract, instead of that extrude or retract moving the filament, I'm going to try to figure out how to demo this. Whatever. It's going to look weird. So let's say this is the inside of the filament. So when I'm printing, my filament could be pushed up against this side too. When I do the retract, it pulls it down. So this motion here, okay, of the retract and the extrude, it's actually requiring more distance on the extrude and the retract because it's got to take up the slack. Whereas if you have a smaller tube, it's only a little bit versus bigger tube. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's see here. I'm looking. Yeah, Max CJ, watch Dr. Z's or the Hookup or DigiBlur videos for Home Assistant and Tasmota. Absolutely, those guys are awesome. I've watched quite a few of their videos when I was starting out. I still reference them occasionally for home automation stuff. Glenn is asking if I can split a stock axial 24 volt into two 24 volt fans, right? I'm not sure what you mean by splitting a fan into two fans. If you're asking if you can hook two fans up to one fan header, the answer is usually yes, as long as you're staying within the limits of the MOSFET that is powering said fan. In general, you can usually run two fans off of one fan output on most boards. So, but, don't go putting on giant, high flow delta fans on there. You'll probably end up burning up a MOSFET. let me see here. I did have Discord open. There we go. I just have it because I see here. Saber Jake said he sent a question on Discord in the live streams. I'm assuming this is you, Burn Blue. I'm assuming that's you. There's only one question here from today. So he says, a few weeks ago, I had hot on my Ender 3 V2 mostly stock fail, and filament came out everywhere around the nozzle, heater cartridge, thermistor, and parts still attached and continuing to print. I had to replace the thermistor 3 times and replace my normal Creality hot end, and then the tough TH3 tough hot end. Now back to the Creality hot end. Due to errors related to continued heating or lack thereof, alarms, nozzle temperature low, high. Let me kind of read this in my head and then give everybody the gist. So you had a physical failure with it leaking. Sounds like you've been back and forth between different hot ends, but you're having hot end errors of the nozzle going high or low. He said, putting the firmware back to 2.27, a weird issue started to happen about 2 to 3 minutes into all the prints. The hot end stops, raises up, rehomes the Z, and then continues about 5 millimeters above the previous spot. I even completed my Ender 3 V2 conversion of the LCD of the regular E3. Are you printing from SD or USB? So the hot end, let's address, there's a couple issues here. So you're having hot end errors. The hot end errors are usually one of two things. The simplest one is usually you have a issue with the wiring going from the board to the thermistor. So I would start there and check that. Or you could have your board could be going out. If it's got, now you've had hot end issues and you've had what sounds like issues where it's been engulfed and probably banged around the hot end quite a bit because it was printing before you caught it. You could have an issue with the temperature I/O pin on the board itself. I don't know if you have another board laying around. If I've rewired everything, replaced the wiring from the board all the way back to the hot end, I've changed the thermistors, I've changed the heater cartridges, I'm still having weird heating issues, I would probably be changing the board out because it sounds like that board might have gotten damaged from the hot end failures. It's not uncommon where if you have a print failure and it's dragging things around and things are hitting the hot end, where you could potentially have a situation where the 24 volts from the heater line got into the thermistor because things were banging around and they crossed. That would be my step of troubleshooting then. So if I've ruled out the wiring and I know my wiring is good, I would probably then swap the board out just to rule that out, because logic dictates if the wiring's good and you're still in these weird issues that you can't track down, it's probably something with the board. And then in terms of your printer where it's doing weird movements, where it's rehoming and moving up and then starting over, that sounds like a bad SD card, but could also be related if your board is having issues. So there's two weird issues that could be electrical problems happening here, with the hot end triggering low and high when it shouldn't, if all the wiring's good and the thermistors are good, and now you're having weird behavior with the SD slot. If I had this machine here, I'd probably be putting a new board in and then running tests to see if it still does it with the new board. So, let's see here. What's our next question here? Michael V, I'm just called Michael V. He said the bed and the X gantry are question on auto bed leveling. The bed and X gantry are not perfectly aligned, i.e. level with the frame. Why is auto level system not correct for that? Now, Scott from Marlin has explained this to me, but basically the skew of the gantry not being level with your printer frame is mathematically different in terms of how it's processed than your bed being tilted. So if your bed's like this, sideways or tilted, the ABL sensor is going to pick that up and be able to compensate for it. But if the gantry is uneven, meaning instead of like they're at the same height on either side, like one's like this, it throws the mesh off. And I know there's a lot of math involved with that, but it just doesn't work. So you want to make sure your X gantry is level with the printer frame. We're not talking about level like bubble level. We're talking about the distance between the bottom of your X gantry is the same distance on the left and right from the printer's frame on both sides. So it's not level with the bed, it's level with the printer frame. So because the basically an auto bed leveling system will, you know, tram and compensate for a bed being out of whack. It will not compensate for a gantry being out of whack because it's a bed leveling system, not a gantry leveling system. So, Max CJ, we're talking about Home Assist now. He said, I moved all 72 of my Tasmota devices to the Tasmota integration. It works great. Well, that's good to know. That gives me a little more confidence. I've got quite a few Tasmota devices on my network here. Maybe that'll give me a chance to move them over to my IoT VLAN. I really need to do that. I'm looking here. Man, we're almost at an hour. You guys have been keeping me busy. I like when you guys have a lot of questions. I'd rather have too many questions where I can't answer them all than not have enough. Let's see here. Chola Duke, I had something sent to me 2-day USPS and showed up in 2 months later. Sounds like USPS. You guys ever see the meme where it's like, you know, UPS is like, it's like UPS and it's like, your package will be delivered at 6:57 p.m. today. And it's like USPS, it's like, what package? It's so accurate. Or there's like, package accepted by USPS and it's like, you know, someone's holding a piece of paper, it's like the tracking number, and it's just like, this is worthless. Anyways, I have so many USPS memes on my phone. TJ Dorman, any updates on the Ender 5 Dual Z kit? There's an Ender 5 right here. There's a box of parts right here. It's getting worked on this week. I had to shelve it when we were trying to get through all the crap and other stuff. So, Glenn Rudolph, I almost bought an EasyABL like 5 times now, but everywhere I look, people say the BL Touch is better. Why are they confusing me? How does EasyABL work? Well, BL Touch has been around longer than the EasyABL. The EasyABL has been around since like 2017. I think the BL Touch came out in like 2015. Now, obviously, the EasyABL is something I've designed. So I'm partial, or what's the word I'm looking for? Conflict of interest, or someone help me out here. The words escaping me. Biased. That's what I was looking for. I'm biased. It's my product. I designed it, and the reason I designed it is because I didn't want. Hang on. Let me go grab a BL Touch. I own one BL Touch, and I have it for test. Okay, so this is a BL Touch. This is a genuine BL Touch, and this is what it is. So BL Touch, all plastic. There's like Kapton tape wrapped around the top here for the coil, and it's got this little pin that moves. Okay, so it deploys this little pin, and it touches the bed, and there's like a little magnet that sucks it up, and it can also deploy it. So the reason I don't like these is because this, if you have a print failure, is really easy to get damaged. You see how flimsy this is? So this is really easily to get damaged. These have also been known to pop down like this during a print, and this is going to be lower than your nozzle, so this hits your print. And the main reason I don't like these and why they have a lot of issues is this is the type of cable that the BL Touch uses. Okay? It's very thin. Okay? Not shielded. And this running next to your stepper motor wires, your hot end wires, this picks up interference. So those are the things, those are reasons I don't like the BL Touch. We don't sell them because I don't want to deal with the technical support that goes along with these and physical moving parts. Okay? Now, okay, now the EasyABL on the other hand is a larger sensor. but no moving parts, okay? No moving parts whatsoever. Like nothing to break, because it's, well, it's not indestructible, but you can hit it, it can hit prints, it's not going to break. The BL Touch, on the other hand, is fragile. It's a fragile sensor. So no moving parts. This cable, if you look here, just show a comparison. So here's the BL Touch cable next to ours, and you can see how thin this is, how flimsy this is, okay? And I will do this just to show you guys here. Easy ABL cable, on the other hand, is fully shielded. Let's see here. Fully shielded. So we have 2 layers of shielding on the cable here, okay? I'm even going to strip this. Good old teeth strippers. Okay. This is the cable we use on our sensor. See the difference? Still got smaller wires on the inside, but we have not only braided shielding, but we also have foil on the inside, okay? And strain relief. You see those threads in there? These are for strain relief. So this nice shielded cable with strain relief versus this cable with no shielding whatsoever. Just thin, basic cable. So those are the reasons why I like the Easy ABL over the BL Touch. The Easy ABL is also typically more accurate, and I think that's a combination of how fast our sensor pulls. I don't have the spec sheet on how fast the pulling rate is, which is how many times a second the sensor's detecting if it's, or checking if it's detecting something. But our sensors, these are 600 hertz sensors, meaning they take samples 600 times a second to basically be like, is there something here or not? It does that 600 times a second. Other thing, BL Touches. I'm sure we probably have at least one person watching that has fried a control board because of the BL Touch wiring and no standards between all the harnesses. And the BL Touch pulls power from your control board. So you have to hook up a 5 volt, 2 grounds, a signal wire, and an end stop wire. The Easy ABL, we have a separate control box here. And this is the control box for Easy ABL. You have your sensor that plugs in here. This is your end stop terminal. And we also have a 3-pin JST to plug in end stop plug-in. The 2-pin screw terminal is here in case you have a end stop that doesn't have a plug on it. You would just snip the wire off the end stop, strip them, and put them into the terminal. Now, our board here, if you look, we have, on this side, we've got a 2-pin screw terminal here. This is for directly wiring power, and we also have an option here with a DC jack to run it off of a 12-volt AC adapter, which we have as an optional add-on. So there is no electrical connection between the power side of this board and the ZN stop side, meaning if something goes wrong with the sensor or you wire it to your AC terminals on your power supply because you're not paying attention, or the sensor has a problem and shorts out, there's no electrical connection between our Easy ABL circuitry and your ZN stop, meaning it can't short your board out. So those are my reasons. The main thing, and I think one of the reasons it's made it so popular, is unlike Amp Collabs, we actually back our product with technical support. So we've made the product, we've designed the product, we also support the product. So you buy BL Touch from Amazon, you might get support from Amazon, who's a guy, you know, probably in India reading a script. I don't know if you guys ever called Amazon's tech support. It's laughable. We have people who actually know the product that will help you out if for some reason there's not something covered in our installation guide. So if having higher quality parts, technical support, shielded wires, no moving parts is important to you, the Easy ABL, I think, is a hands down winner. The BL Touch does work, but I feel like our Easy ABL is a more robust product. So there you go, shilling for my own products for once on my channel. Let's see here. Did that poor Easy ABL deserve to do it? Yes, for marketing purposes and showing you guys, yes. I I think I should just take some high quality photos of that so I can show them. That, if it makes you guys feel any better, that sensor, the end, somebody ripped, like it got caught on someone, like the printer was on the floor and the end got ripped out. So I was going to have to put a new end on it anyways. So anyways, where we go? Where are we going? I got to go back. Got to go back to the, where we were talking about. We were talking about Glenn. Okay, I found Glenn's comment. So hopefully Glenn was still in here, and hopefully my explanation was good. Marcus is asking about the Chiron. Like I said in the post, I have to get the Unified 2 updated. So shortly after I get Unified 2 updated to Marlin 209, then I can add new printers. So I'm trying to get that done by this weekend. Let's see here. Which is better, belt-driven dual Z or stepper-driven? It depends on the printer. On the Ender 3, since it's a smaller machine, I think the belt-driven design is a lot easier and a lot simpler. This is actually a good question because there's trade-offs with both. So you got, single motor with a belt system at the top, like we have with our Ender 3 dual Z kit. You got a lead screw coming up, it sticks out the top, there's a gear on the top that drives a belt and it moves over to the other one. So you have one motor driving a belt that drives 2 lead screws. That's great and simple and mechanical. You're not adding a second stepper motor, you're not having to do wiring. And why I like that type of mechanical setup over a dual Z is because you also then have no gantry out of sync issue. So on machines, and I'm sure you guys watching have machines that have two separate Z motors and lead screws stock, occasionally the gantry will go like this and it's out of level. With the belt mechanical system, it's locked in. You can't do that. On some machines like my CR10 right here, it's on the rack. I'm pointing at the one on the rack. That has 2 Z motors and 2 Z lead screws, but I also took a closed loop belt with 2 pulleys, put them on the lead screws, and they're linked together. So that prevents it from going like this, so I don't have to constantly be re-leveling my gantry. There's trade-offs to both. They both get the job done, but I do like the mechanical drive method better because you're not going to deal with the out-of-sync issue as much. And technically, you shouldn't have to deal with it at all unless something causes it to skip a tooth on the belt or something loosens up and it gets out of sync. So, let me see here. Kevin Crunch is trying, oh, he posted here. So he's having issues where his, I'll show this too because this is a good one. I see, is this rust? This looks like rust. We'll go ahead and, where's my monitor share? Here it is. Ooh, infinity. Yeah, so you can see the gaps here. This is really common here. Now, sometimes this can be caused by slicer settings. This little, where the walls are pulling away. This more looks like under extrusion. Now, if you've calibrated your E-steps, and we do have a handy dandy E-step calculator on our website here. So if I pop that in here, we have an E-step calculator on our website that guides you through setting your E-steps. So if you've already calibrated your E-steps and you're still getting this under extrusion here, where you have these gaps in the part, like I can see this here, this will be a flow rate modification you need to do in your slicer. Now, if you, I use Simplify 3D. I don't even think I have Cura installed. But if I pull up Simplify 3D, you'll see an option right here, and I'm sure Cura and Prusa Slicer, they should all have a similar option. There's an extrusion multiplier. So for like PLA, for an example here, for PLA, you can see here from my Ender 3, I run a 0.96 extrusion multiplier. So if I was getting what you were getting on your printer, I would bump this up a little bit and then run the same print again. So you want to play with the extrusion multiplier. So if you know your extruder is calibrated correctly and you're getting those gaps, you'd want to look at the extrusion multiplier setting on there. And yeah. Anyways, So, I think it's an extrusion multiplier issue because you are getting this throughout the entire print. It's not just on the side walls. It's on the top infill. It's everywhere. So I would bump your flow rate up or your extrusion multiplier up in your slicer, and that should take care of it. Just bump it up by, like if you're at 100%, bump it up to like 110, see how it comes out. So, and that's, like I said, that's assuming you already have your E-steps calibrated. Let me see. I do want to say, I see people saying they're posting in Discord, but I am not seeing posts in Discord. I only look at the live streams channel when we're live stream. I'm not going to go hunt through a bunch of other pages here. I'm going to check. Yeah, I don't see the other one. You guys are dicks. I clicked on the lounge one in the VIP section, and someone screenshotted me explaining the PTFE tube with my finger in my hand. Anyways. All right. Let's get back on topic here. Because we do have to wrap this up. I'm going to go a little bit longer and see if there's any other quick questions here. Oh, people, yeah, the Nightbot's going to say we have a giveaway right now. Just because it's automated. Local Maker MI is asking, can you switch over to a dual gear extruder without changing the E-steps? If you have one that takes the same exact, if you have one that the gear is the same exact diameter of your stock one, yes, but typically they're going to be different. So the answer is generally no. If you're changing to a dual gear extruder or any other extruder from your stock one, the E-steps are most likely going to be different. The only exception to that would be if you're going from like a stock plastic Creality one to something like our upgraded aluminum one that's basically it's the same extruder, it's metal instead of plastic. Those are the same E-steps, but if you're going from a different design, from one design to another, you probably need to change your E-steps, and sometimes you have to reverse your motor direction as well. So, which you can do at firmware or flip it at the PCB side. Jeffy Boy's asking about replacing MOSFETs on the BTT boards. His blew up. Yes, you could. You just look up the part number for the ones that are on there, find their data sheet, find out what the voltages they operate on and what logic or what voltage the logic level side, the gate voltage, and find a cross-reference that to another part. You could switch them out. I ended up sending my SKR13 that had the bad MOSFET on it that I replaced to a buddy of mine, but I replaced it with a different MOSFET. So yeah, you can find them, just cross-reference the parts and find something that's in the same specs. Because I've done it before. You just gotta use a reflow, heat it up, and you'll be good. Let's see here. And I'm really sorry that we don't have any easy boards right now. It's hurting us right now business-wise, and I'm frustrated, but I'm not going to rush the product out just because we need to start selling boards. So, but we're moving forward. Also, I want to have the Easy Neos out on the site next week. So I have a very busy weekend of documentation and firmware work. Let's see here. Oh, Jerry Z, I haven't seen you in a while. He just said, love you, man. Jerry's an old friend of mine. I haven't seen him around a long time. I'm surprised you're in here. R Mills wants the dual Z kit. I have, so regarding the Ender 5 dual Z kit, the reason it got shelved was because it was lower priority compared to everything else that we had going on here right now. The problem with the prototypes I have right now, I sent them out to Tor and Mac, and while they work, the screw sizes that the manufacturer who made these kits sent out were completely wrong. So I have to go through and basically make a whole new BOM of what parts need to come with these and send those to the supplier and be like, hey, I'm going to use your brackets and your motor and your motor mount, but we need to change all of the hardware that comes with it in terms of screws and nuts and bolts, because it was not something I would sell. It was something I would expect, from like AliExpress, everything's wrong, but you can make it work. We don't sell stuff like that. So I don't want to send out half-ass stuff. Max CJ, I just noticed the TH3 logo in the background. Do we make that? Yes, there's a stream. That guy, there's a stream. And that's printed in the Stealth Gray Coex PET G. Let's see if there's any more questions in here. Saber Jake said he resent his question. I think I got them here. I need to have like an assistant like making me a list of questions to answer and who did them. That'd be great. I feel like Tor would be really good at that. Oh, Kevin Crunch is asking, how do I calibrate E-steps on older Ender 3? It doesn't have a motion section on my control panel on my printer screen. Yes, so I'm assuming you're using our firmware. If it's the older board and it's older firmware, I do believe our new firmware has those menu options back because Marlin 2 was a little more efficient at using the space. But you would have to send them, you would have to send it via a G-code command. So, and you can go ahead and just literally send it over a G-code command. You could put in your starting code and that would take care of it. So, man, people are really upset that I chopped the wire on that EasyABL. Man, you would think I took an angle grinder to it or something. Let's see. We're gonna wrap this up in a sec here. Let me finish my beer. Woodrow Knapp is asking, how do I flash my CR10 board back to all default settings? So you could go and get Creality's firmware, and that would bring it back to default. They do have firmware downloads on their website. You could download our firmware and just set it up by just uncommenting the CR10 line and uploading the firmware to the printer, and that's going to give you a nice baseline. I would not recommend going back to the stock CR10 firmware because that was back in the day. Now they might have updated it with their later releases, but the original firmware that came with the CR10s did not have thermal runaway protection. So, I would check if you're dead set on having Creality's firmware. You would go to their website. They have like a million different domains, but they do have downloads on their website. But we also have firmware for the CR10 with multiple different boards supported on our website that will give you a nice stock firmware to go with, as in a machine that has no upgrades on it. You can do that. So David Hill says, Artillery Genius for some unknown reason will not recognize my USB COM port anymore. The COM is still there with the CH340 driver. I would say try another cable, and if that doesn't work, try another port on your computer. Let's rule out the simple stuff first. But if you've tried a new port, new computer, new cable, and it still doesn't show up, it sounds like that board might be kaput. So, let's see if there's any other quick questions. I see someone asking about EasyABL with Clipper. I don't use Clipper, but I know there are people that use Clipper. Yeah, I see R Mills here. I use EasyABL with Clipper. Yeah, the EasyABL functions in terms of the logic it uses to talk to your printer control board. It just functions like a normally open switch. So, I see G Funny Money. I have Clipper on my SignWriter X1 with EasyABL. Yeah, you can. The EasyABL is a sensor kit. So basically, if you have firmware like it works, you can get it working on Duet, on Marlin, on Clipper, as long as you follow the directions for whatever firmware you're using and you connect it to an I/O pin like an end stop switch would. There's no reason why it shouldn't work. So, but in terms of tech support, we provide support for our EasyABL with our version of Marlin, but we also have a lot of resources in our help center on using the EasyABL with what we call vanilla Marlin, aka Marlin you've just downloaded from the Marlin site. And we also have a document on the Duet setup as well, because I suffered through a Duet install on my CR10 just so I could make a document on how to use it with the CR10. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. Chat jumped. But I'm gonna have to wrap this up in a sec here. I want to keep these at an hour, and we're in hour 18 right now. I know we had a couple minutes queue up, so G Funny Money, are we going to carry 5-pound spools ABS? No, we're going to stick with 1 pound, or not 1 pound, 1 kilogram, aka 2.2 pound spools of filament. I hope you guys really enjoy the coax. We sold quite a bit of rolls, and we're going to be reordering. If there's any colors that we don't carry from coax and you guys want to request them, go ahead and send us a message on our contact form. There's a sales section, and let us know what colors you'd like to see us get in the shop. So, and because coax is literally in Wisconsin, it's only 2 states over, we can get their filament in very quick. So, let's see here. Are there any other quick ones? I volunteer as tribute to test an Easy Board V2. We do all of our testing in-house, not on our customers. We're good. I appreciate the offer, but we're good on testing those. So, Jeremy said he has an easy ABL, and notice that during the print, the sensor switches between green and red trigger point, and it doesn't stop printing. Yeah, it's normal. Once the homing sequence, the G28 and the G29 mesh sequence is done, the board ignores what the sensor's doing, and the sensor will turn on and off between triggered and not triggered while you're printing, because it will detect when you're moving over a thick part of your print. But the board doesn't care. Once it's done using the sensor, it just ignores any signals coming from it until you do a G28 or G29. So, Kyle Fegley, the camera mount. So Kyle sent us his S5 bed with the frame, and I know Joe is doing the final revisions to that arm. So if you guys have an S5, we're going to have camera mounts soon, again, for the S5 with the solid bed mounts. So we're just finishing up the final design. Joe's actually got it so it's super strong, and it can still pivot all the way around the corner of the bed, which is awesome. So, so here's any other quick question before I wrap it up. Dean Hintz, is that an IPA? Is this an IPA? It's Spotted Cow. I don't know if it's classified as an IPA. It's not hoppy, if that's what you're asking, but this is my favorite beer. If anybody's ever in the area, you want to bring me some beer, and you're going through Wisconsin, this is how you win me over. All right. The beer is done. We're past the hour mark. I'm going to give Remo a treat. Wow, he is out. You see that? He's right there. I'm going to grab the bag. Oh, there he is. There he is. Oh, is this your favorite part of the stream? This is his favorite part of the stream. Can you guys tell? Look how sleepy he is. He's laying back down. No, you got to sit. Come on. Come here. Come here. Come here. Sit. Sit. Shake. Touch. Good boy. Good boy. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys stopping by. I hope you guys learned something. Again, sorry about the delay. Just had a ton of stuff going on. And I hope you guys had fun. And as always, happy printing. I'll see you guys on Friday at 6.